Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Jen. And it's great to be in this room with folks who are across the country and across different, farmers and lawyers. And it's just really exciting, a very exciting way to continue Black History Month. So I'm going to share my screen. Are you able to see this? Okay. So, a bit about me before I kind of dive into this work. Before being with Black Farmer Fund, I was a farmer myself, and I had a agroforestry farm, and I was growing shiitake mushrooms, and I was growing. I had bees that I was keeping, and I was also managing land for timber. And as I was kind of going through my journey, like many of us here in this room, I was like, okay, it's time for me to raise capital so I can capitalize my business. And I was having a really hard time. Either folks didn't necessarily understand my agroforestry business, or I was too young. I didn't have, enough credit history. And the more that I talked to other business owners and other farmers, and especially farmers of color, I realized that there was just so much more complexity into understanding who gets access to capital and who doesn't. And so I really wanted to be a part of something that was creating a financial institution that people could trust, especially Black farmers could trust. And I'm not the only one who felt passionate about this mission to do the same. Um, Most of these like speaking events or engagements that I go to, it's very much just only me doing it. And I really want to take this time to just shout out all the amazing team members that I have. I have Alexis and Onyx in this room with me today, but all these folks are passionate about food access and food justice, whether or not it's coming from a legacy of farmers or having farms themselves or just being part of farmer organizing before coming to work with us. Having people who are really passionate about this work in our team, I'm really grateful for. And our investment committee is also filled with farmers, organizers, people who've done loans before, people who are really from the community that we're looking to serve. And I will talk a little bit more about why that's so important and critical to anything that we do. And then finally, just shouting out our board. Our board, we have an amazing team of folks who are coming from, foundation work and farming work. We have a reverend on our board who does work with churches and connecting churches to farms. And so this work really takes a village. And I just want to shout all these amazing people out, before I kind of dive into what exactly we do. So, what exactly are we trying to solve for? I would say that there's two things. We're trying to solve for money and we're trying to solve for power. So, with capital specifically, one of the things that we look at is the racial wealth gap in the Black farming community. And these are just some statistics pointed out from the Northeast, but I'm sure if we looked at across the country, we'll see very similar statistics around how white farmers are making around 5 times more in net cash income than Black farmers. Power is a really big issue. In my opinion, it's not enough to just move money. Really being able to also shift how decisions are made is very, very, very important. And one of the ways in which power is demonstrated in agriculture is by land ownership. So, who has access to land? Ultimately, who's making the decisions on land? It's not enough for people to lease land. We do need to have more farmers have more autonomy and ownership and stewardship over, the land in which they are cultivating food for us. And so when you look at, all the arable, farmable acreage in the Northeast, Black owned only includes 4,200. Additionally, when we look at power, when we look at wealth, just thinking about businesses on a broader scale, when you all are in your communities and looking around you at other Black owned businesses and other businesses from different races, noticing how many Black-owned businesses are out there. And of those that are out there, how profitable are their businesses? How much market access do they have? Are they struggling at the same levels that others are struggling? And the data shows that not only are there not enough Black business owners, but the ones who exist are making 30 times less than white business owners. So ultimately, for us, this paints a picture that there's broader systemic discrimination at play for farmers and food business owners. And this has been set up through generations of discrimination, enslavement of Black folks, stolen land from Indigenous folks, the creation of a system that profits off of the backs and the land of Black folks and other people of color. And so it's a really tall order for us to be able to kind of figure out what is our part in this? How are we going to contribute to this broader movement of addressing this issue? And when the other thing too, especially going back to power, is that when we look at the financial institutions that exist, like investment funds, CDFIs, a lot of the decisions as to how money is getting distributed into communities are oftentimes held by people who are not from those communities. So if you think back to the slide that I showed to you on our investment committee, all those folks are representatives from all the different states in the Northeast that we serve, and they have different roles that they serve as well. So the question for us is thinking about taking all this information that we know about the racial wealth gap, the power imbalance in financial institutions, and the the racial and the power and just the population of Black-owned businesses that currently exist. How are we reconciling with this as Black Farm Fund? So our goal is really to nurture the Black community wealth and health by investing in Black agricultural systems in the Northeast, thinking from not only from the farm, but also to our tables. How can we create support around the entire ecosystem? And we're doing this by being a 501c3 community investment fund that offers capital and technical assistance and community relationship building. So we started the organization in 2019. 2020, we got our first funding, and that was our first year being fully operational. And so since 2021, we've been able to make a significant impact in our community, not only through the amount of dollars that we've been able to raise, the ability for us to be able to make transactions into our community through deployment of capital, but then also to be able to show up for our community in times of need through emergency relief funding. And the amount of time that we've spent with folks, making sure that they have what they need in order to be able to navigate their businesses, as well as the amount of spaces and people that we've gathered together to build relationships with one another. I'll also add that in addition to 14 businesses that we've supported with the investment capital that we do, we also have 70 businesses we've supported with rapid response funds and 20 community garden fund recipients. And I'll talk a little bit more about these funds a little later too. So these are a couple of the different ways in which we're working to close the racial wealth gap and build community wealth and health. Our community work days and site visits are really transformative. Basically what we do is we go to the different farms that we support or businesses that we support to do hands-on work. And so I'm sure all the business owners in here know, sometimes you will have tasks that it would be great to just hire 10 people to be able to support you in getting it done in a few hours rather than over several weeks with just you and maybe a couple of other people. And so that's what we do for the community work days. So in this photo down here, we were helping to set up a greenhouse. And so I was on one of the ladders helping to drill in some of the holes. We had people helping out with planning and staging different parts of the greenhouse. I've been on a community workday where we supported with transplanting. There was a bunch of seasonality issues. And so usually the farmer, they would stagger the transplants, but they basically only had like a week to get everything in. So we had a whole team of people come out to just plow out all the transplanting at one time. And so this really allows us to not only build trust, but to actually be able to support with hands on the ground. Our technical assistance, it really ranges. It could be anything from one-on-one business support to supporting the businesses who are going through our due diligence with getting fractional CFOs, paying for someone to support with pricing, paying for an accountant support. So really just the wide range of just being there for folks to be as not only a sounding board, but a source of resources in order for them to be able to take their business to the next level. Our rapid response fund emerged because initially we had designed ourselves to be a fund that was focused on strategic investments and growth, but life is gonna life and emergencies happen all the time. And because of what has happened with intentional discrimination, a lot of Black folks don't have emergency savings, family and friends money that they can rely on. And so being able to basically create some sort of cushion that folks could tap into has been really transformative for our community. And most recently, especially last year, a lot of folks tapped into it when their federal funding contracts got frozen. We've had people tap into it with climate crises, flooding, fires, and if folks have had a loss in their family and they need to pay someone to keep things going. Our community garden fund, community gardens are often overlooked because they're not necessarily like businesses and they're not, for-profit entities, but they're incredible backbones to communities of color and even just all communities. And being able to provide them with whatever support it is they need to provide their community with emotional, mental, spiritual support, even providing food, providing a place for gathering, things like that, we feel like are also important to do as a fund to make sure that all areas of the broader food system are covered. And then finally, Skillshares. These Skillshares are a place where we bring in experts on specific topics. A lot of the experts come from the community that we work with, and it could be anything from bringing in an accountant to ask a bunch of questions, to bringing in someone who is skilled with growing herbal plants and turning them into herbal medicine products, or bringing in someone who can help farmers figure out how to get procurement contracts with school districts. Just having those different levels of resources for people to tap into have been critical outside of just receiving funding. So our main place in which we do a significant amount of funding is through our $20 million fund, which is called BFF Fund 2.0. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is being like an impact first fund. And so these are the ways in which we evaluate businesses before we do a deeper due diligence on financials. So how are the businesses building community wealth? How are they prioritizing ecological well-being? And how are they moving economic justice forward? So it's not just about, are you a good, profitable business and are you, paying back your accounts payable, and are you, do you have enough markets, and just all the traditional things around what it means to have a good business, but also, are you hiring people from your community? Are you offering living wage? If you, distribute your products and your services, are you operating within a range that's considered sustainable to the planet? All these other things that I think are foundational to building businesses that are not just good for driving revenue to communities, but also for the well-being of the people around us and our planet. And so this fund, we use an integrated non-extractive approach. So we offer low interest loans, gifts, and oftentimes we pair the two together to really just make sure that we are giving folks the capital that we need in as patient a way as possible. And we do a wide range of things around structuring, providing flexible payments. We do different types of lending types, all within a broader context of recognizing that the ways in which traditional financial institutions have been lending have not worked well for the communities that we're serving. So these are some examples of our portfolio, and if you take a photo of this QR code, you can see some others, but just to give you an example of the range in which we've invested in 2.0. So we have, a business that has processing and value added component as well as a farm. But then we also have folks who are just farms and doing things like diversified vegetable and livestock. And then we have businesses that are in the middle. Brooklyn Packers, for example, is a CSA that prioritizes BIPOC communities in Brooklyn. And then we have a meat processor, Prince Abu Butchery, and Eden S that does plant-based. So to take a look at more of the other folks that we work with, definitely look at the QR code. And then our Rapid Response Fund, these are some of the folks, but and our Community Garden Fund, I really appreciate this particular area of work that we do, because it just allows us to show up in a way that's abundant for our community. These are some of the examples that we've been able to support, and really just being able to provide support for people during emergency situations, especially like this past year, has been really critical. So my, I guess, parting message for all of us is just to remind us all that it's a really challenging time. It has been a really challenging time for our organization in general. I mean, we started at the height of COVID, the murder of George Floyd, the racial reckoning, and now we're transitioning into a anti-DEI, anti-ESG area. And so I think for us as an organization, we exist in spite of all of those things that are happening. And us and you all and all of us together in this community, we're all in this together. And so it's important for us to look for ways to collaborate and work with one another. And, as I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, we recognize that there aren't financial institutions that can be trusted. There's documented intentional discrimination from USDA, for example. And so we've always known that we can't rely solely on the government for support. And I think now the rest of the country is feeling those effects. And so ultimately, it's really important for us to rely on one another and to take care of one another. So the biggest thing that I want to leave with you all is what can we do together in order to be able to focus on what we can control as a community. And so during Black History Month, it's super important, and even any month, quite honestly, it's really important to continue to support Black businesses through intentional giving practices. And so this might look like doing profit sharing or proceeds donations. So for example, we have several businesses that will reach out to us during Black History Month and say, we're going to give a percentage of our proceeds to you or another business. Or they'll send us monthly donations through PayPal. We also like to see folks who are doing thoughtful collaborations. So if there's a business in your area who you might be able to procure something from, or you might do an event together, any ways for you all to share your platforms and uplift one another, I think is really transformative. And finally, showing up for the communities that we serve as an organization at BFF. So if you see people who are putting on events, people who are putting on campaigns, show up to the events, participate in events and putting on campaigns or any other initiative, they can be really hard to put together. And so just having presence at people's initiatives that they're putting on really goes a long way. And not only being able to show up to support the organization, but also building that trust. So if you're interested in learning more about our organization, you can follow us at Black Farmer Fund on all the things, IG, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Facebook. If you want to support our organization, there's a QR code, and I think we'll also put a link in the chat. Please check out our portfolio, support them directly, reach out to them, contact them, learn how you can procure their products or do a collaboration. And if you want to follow us for all the things that we're doing, all the events that we're putting on that you could show up to, you can also sign up for our newsletter. So I think that's it. That's all that I have. I'm gonna check the chat to see if there's any questions. Or Jen, if you want to say anything.
Sure, I can help out. That was fantastic. I love how you started with a very strong why and then gave us all this information about the fun, but then actually turn it back on us and say, here's what you can do. So that was just wonderful. Definitely, for those of you who have questions, you can put it in the chat, open it up a bit. But Mike had a question. Mike, do you want to go off mute and ask your question?
If it's Mike Kennedy you're talking to, sure.
Yes, I am talking to you, Mike. Welcome.
You're talking to me. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if the question is, are you dealing with agrivoltaics, which I've found. I first want to say that the farming for all farmers is a heartfelt mission of mine. I was a hippie farmer back in the hippie days and saw my neighbors die of cancer from the Monsanto chemicals and kill their land. And now I've seen Bayer buy Monsanto so that they can make money curing the cancer or trying to cure the cancer that Monsanto has created. So I'm passionate about trying to help with that. But my question is about agrivoltaics. Have you introduced or are you working with companies um, that can help with the incentive of putting agrivoltaics, mixing solar with higher value crops on farming properties?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I appreciate you sharing just your passion and interest. And um, yeah, thanks for being here. I we have had some. We don't invest in agrivoltaics in terms of our mandate, but we've had one skill share where we invited in an agrivoltaic company
Easy for you to say.
to come and talk with our community and gauge interest. And we didn't necessarily have a lot of interest from our community specifically around agrivoltaics. I think one of the feedback that we got around it is just the barriers to entry for actually purchasing and setting up the agrivoltaics was high. And for us, it didn't feel like the demand was big enough for us to consider some sort of funding towards it. So, but if you have, if you've talked to other Black farmers and other folks who are doing it actively, it might be good for us to bring in someone who's actively doing it rather than a company. So we'd love to connect on that.
Okay. Well, I'd be happy to come to a meeting if that's what it would take. But we've it's fairly new, as everyone knows, and so we haven't done many of them. But it's very easy to install and to space the solar in a way that we can do it. I'm suggesting that our best pilot project is a 5 megawatt project on 25 acres of land, but we're on that one, we're doing some high value concentrated organic vegetables underneath. We can get up to $50,000 an acre with the gardening that we can connect you to. So that's it, and I'm happy to join in a meeting sometime to answer any questions about it and to give you some examples of how we do it.
Amazing. Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Any other any other questions out there?
And I just
We'll
want to
open
shout
it
out,
up.
we have a couple of folks in our community here, Marcellus, or maybe they might have left, um, is in here as well. So yeah, so I just want to shout out Marcellus for being here and for their work. Marcellus has a couple of different has a honey operation in Newark, New Jersey. So
Excellent. Thanks for catching that one. I know that a lot of people ask questions up front. Oh, not gonna keep. Let's see. Oh, okay. There was some questions about like, is there a New Jersey chapter? Are there, is it in my region? Do you have any like funds that are happening in other parts of the US?
yeah, so right now we're only focused in the Northeast. So Northeast for us means from Pennsylvania um up to Maine. So that's our main area. But there are other funds that are supporting Black farmers across the country, and we're happy to share those names in a follow-up. One example is Pot Liquor Capital. They do nationally, and they support BIPOC farmers in general. And there's a Black Food Fund in the Pacific Northwest as well. And then there's a Southern Black community-led fund in the Southeast. Detroit, there's one in Detroit, Detroit Black Land Fund. So there's lots of different iterations of folks doing this work across the US. Yeah.
Fantastic. If you have a question, you can go off mute.
Hi, I have a question.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Yeah, I'm curious. Have you guys been able to build some strong philanthropic relationships and bring in some catalytic capital? Sounds like you might have, and I'm very interested to know, what kind of support you're getting from the community to build this fund. Sounds like you're doing awesome things in the community, so great to see.
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. Yeah, we do have some strong foundation support, and we're always looking for more connections. I think we really prioritize working with mission-aligned funders. We really want to work with funders who operate from a trust-based perspective and who trust our leadership and insight and provide general operating funding as much as possible, multi-year funding. It really has allowed us to be able to focus on setting up the systems and the framework and the sustainability for driving this work forward. And so we always approach our relationships with funders from that perspective of here's who we are, this is what we're looking for in funders. Are we a good match, rather than just taking any type of funding. There's funding that we've actually said no to because it would have put us too out of our mission. So I think, yeah, catalytic capital is really important, especially when doing work like this.
Thanks, Tiffany. Steve.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Great work you're doing, Olivia. Appreciate the effort and the niche that you're working within. The question and hey, Tiffany, how you doing? Mike, Kelly, Jen, you've got some really good friends, man. Let me tell you. So, Olivia, the question I have for you is: a lot of times, great social enterprise initiatives like yours are kind of working as an island. How much do you plug into the political and community activist world to help promote what you're doing, and also to engage more of a broader community who may not even think about that there is a Black farmers organizing effort out there to help amplify the mission, of course, gather strength and act more cohesively and coordinated and expand your mission beyond your current bandwidth?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I totally agree with you. I think social enterprises oftentimes they see their pure functionality as providing a service or providing a good and trying to make it as nice as possible on the planet. But being able to also connect in with others who are doing similar things and organize is really key. And organizing has been really at the frame of a lot of what we do. We belong to several member organizations, and we are part of several different collaboratives. So one collaborative that we're part of is called the Ecosystem. And so it's a collective of several different organizations in the Northeast that are working on different areas in the food system. So we support funding. Northeast Farmers of Color Land Trust supports land. Soul Fire Farm does education. Farm School NYC does education. Black Farmers United New York State does policy in New York State. And Corbin Hill Food Project does distribution. And so we intentionally have organized ourselves together, and we meet, and not only do we do fundraising efforts together, but we do projects together to really we are just one part of this broader movement. And I really appreciate that question. The other thing is that we belong to an organization called National Black Food Justice Alliance, and that's a membership organization of farmers and organizations like ourselves that does intentional organizing around policy, or even just organizing amongst ourselves to make sure that we understand who is meeting what need. And then there are lots of other different sporadic things where we are in community with other organizations that are we would call sibling organizations, and we will occasionally meet up over Zoom to check in on how people are doing, what are events that we can support with one another. So I agree with you. Organizing as a social enterprise is so fundamental.
Are you regional or national? I came on a little late, so I might have missed that information.
We're based in the Northeast, so our main funding areas from Pennsylvania to Maine, but in terms of like just being able to collaborate with people, we collaborate with people across the country.
If there's a way to connect you to other regions with very similar missions, is that something your organization would consider, or are you?
Yeah, yeah, we have our info at email address that you can, Alexis, maybe you can paste it in the chat and Alexis can be sure to connect you or have you connect us to.
Okay, I'll put my information on the chat too. And then
Thank
I
you.
welcome everyone to join us. Part of what we're doing is we're building out what we're calling the financial activist movement, where we're connecting the dots with all these great efforts out there. And I suspect that everyone on this call is probably pretty active and very aware, but it's just impossible to know all the great things that are going on out there. So, like activists, we need to connect together and kind of combine our strength, amplify our voice and create ecosystems, particularly getting capital onto the ground. We need to create those systems, and it's been a pretty disjointed process up to this point, but we're getting better at it. So the financial activist movement has helped really facilitate this. The Main Street Journal and the work that Jen is doing with Amoeba and others is doing good work, but we really need to fire this up because, as you know, our task has gotten much tougher over the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. So I'll put my information in, and if anyone wants to confer, collaborate, cogitate, whatever, let's do it. Let's raise our
Thank you,
voice.
Stephen.
Thanks.
Kenneth, you've had your hand up patiently.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hi, Olivia. My name is Kenneth Mbono. I am with the Business Improvement District in Brooklyn, New York, in Flatbush. And I was just wondering, and just listening to you and your partnerships and your affiliations, some of, in some neighborhoods, it could be beneficial for to host a Black farmers market. And I'm just thinking outside the box here. Do you support, sometimes it takes time for those kind of initiatives to be sustainable, but with your relationships with different Black farmers and especially, a farmers market might be something you might want to think of. And if you or your team are considering one, we'll be happy to provide a spot for it in
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
thanks for your question, Kenneth. We have an amazing business that we have invested in already called Brooklyn Packers. And they have a CSA where they pop up to support and provide food through their CSA, but also through a farmers market standpoint. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly where they do these pop-ups in Brooklyn, but our role is to give folks like Brooklyn Packers and others who are doing the work already. So yes, I think that
Good.
having farmers markets is super important, and you should definitely check out Brooklyn Packers.
Packers as in Packers?
Yes, Brooklyn Packers.
Okay.
Uh, I'll put in
All
the
right.
chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Loving all these connections being made. Any other questions as we wrap up? I just want to extend a huge thanks to Olivia and your team for joining us today. We are going to be following up with a recording. And again, feel free to share it with others. It sounds like Olivia is willing to share her awesome presentation, so I'll be sure to get that from her and send it out to you all tomorrow morning. Our next event is on Thursday, March 12th at 1 o'clock. We're going to be having Purchasing with Purpose, talking about putting people on planet first when it comes to procurement. I just noticed that Sarah had a question, so I'll open it up to her. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the link in our chat just as real quick. And then let's see. We had a couple things. Sarah, did you want to say anything off mute?
Not really. Mine was just meant to be a chat, but it
Oh,
just
sorry
so
about that.
happened that I found Olivia's blog years ago. I just wanted to say I appreciate it. I became a fan. And now there's another connection through because Black Farmer Fund works with Brian Becken. But just wanted to say I'm a fan. Thanks.
Thanks. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, Brian is an amazing, are amazing lawyers. So if there are any businesses that need support, especially with thinking about how to like structure deals or transactions or your business in a way that's like socially responsible, their pathway is amazing.
Great. So thank you all for being here. Thank you again, Olivia, Alexis, Onyx, and all of you for being here. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.